Hello, I'm R.A. Spratt, and I want to welcome people joining us this week on the Yoto podcast platform. Now, just so you know, most of the bedtime stories I tell here are standalone stories. But over the last year, we have been dipping in and out of the epic story of Odysseus, the hero from ancient Greek mythology. And this week, I'm going to be telling the second last installment of that tale. So if you can jump in right here, that'll be fine. I'm sure you'll pick it all up. But if you did want to go back to the beginning and start from the first episode, you can search back through the episodes. The first episode's called Odysseus, as told by Nanny Piggins, and it dropped on January 8th, 2025. Or you can go back and listen to any of the other episodes. You're going to find fairy tales, myths, legends, and mysteries. I hope you enjoy them all. Now let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Bedtime Stories with me, R.A. Spratt. All right, well, we've got a treat for you this week. Last week, we had a special excerpt from the new Nanny Piggins audiobook that has just come out. And this week, it's going to be a special excerpt from the new Friday Barnes book that has just come out. So I'm going to be playing the recording of the first chapter of Friday Barnes 3, Big Trouble. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed going into the studio and recording it. Beyond that, in the next couple of weeks leading up to Christmas, I'm going to have 3 holiday specials. And you're probably thinking, but there's only 2 more Wednesdays before Christmas. That's right. So I'm going to have 2 holiday specials, one about the first Christmas and one, I think, about getting your Santa photo taken. And I'm also, because Hanukkah is on the 14th, I'm going to have a bonus holiday episode for Hanukkah. So there'll be 3 holiday episodes coming up between now and the end of December. And then in January, I'm going to play 4 of our favourite episodes from the last. And then it'll be the new year, 2006, so we'll get back into it. And in the new year, at the beginning of February, I will finish off the story of Odysseus. I know I thought I was going to finish it off this year, but I haven't, but I am so close. I've only got 1 or 2 episodes to go to finish it off. And that's going to be a book in the new year too, in June. Like, the publishers are already super excited for the story of Odysseus, the Odyssey, to become a book based on these podcast episodes. It's going to come out in June. So yeah, there's a lot coming up in the new year. My new book, Romeo v. Juliet, will be coming out in February too. So I'll be playing an excerpt of that for you all. So there's a lot coming up. So anyway, I'm going to cut to the reading from the audiobook of Friday Barnes in a second. But before I do, I just want to say happy holidays. I hope you have wonderful holidays with whatever you're celebrating at this time of year. And just remember, there are loads of audiobooks now available that I've recorded across Friday Barnes, Nanny Piggins, the Greek myths, and if you want to get into some Shakespeare, there's the Hamlet is Not Okay audiobook as well. So if you're doing a road trip or you're at a loose end over the holidays, that's all out there. And so enjoy. And every purchase you make of an audiobook, through whatever platform you buy it on, it all goes, it all helps me, which helps me keep this podcast going. Okay, so that's it for now. Chapter 1, The Disappearing Doctor. Friday Barnes was running as fast as she could across the Highcrest Academy campus, which admittedly wasn't too fast because running wasn't her strong suit. She had just heard the shocking news that her father had turned up and taken over a physics lesson, and she was desperate to get to that classroom to minimise whatever public embarrassment he was undoubtedly causing. Friday's best friend, Melanie Pelly, ran with her, and Ian Wainscott came along as well. He was either Friday's arch-nemesis or her love interest. Nobody was quite sure which, least of all Ian and Friday. But wherever there was a dramatic public confrontation involving Friday, he was always there. When they burst through the door, they saw the science teacher, Mr. Davies, slumped at a desk, holding his head in his hands. All the students looked very brain-addled and confused. At the front of the room, Friday's father, Dr. Barnes, was scrawling equations over every last square inch of the whiteboard. You see here, X is a photon or Z boson, and here X and Y are 2 electroweak bosons, such that the charge is conserved, droned Dr. Barnes. He had whiteboard marker and egg stains on his saggy brown cardigan, and it didn't look like his hair had been brushed at any time in the last decade. "Dad, stop!" cried Friday. "You're hurting their brains." Dr. Barnes looked up and adjusted his glasses. "Ah, Friday, yes, that's why I'm here. I've come to see you." "Then why have you taken over Mr. Davies' class?" asked Friday. "Oh, I was looking for you when I walked past here," said Dr. Barnes, "and I saw the lesson he was teaching. He clearly needed help. His explanation was childlike." "These are children," said Friday. "He was explaining physics to children." Dr. Barnes turned and looked at the class. He adjusted his glasses on his nose. "Oh, yes, I suppose so. I hadn't considered that." "The family resemblance is remarkable," said Ian. "It's not just the brown cardigan, it's the total ignorance of social normality." "Stow it," said Friday, before going over to her father. "Dad, why were you looking for me? You never have before. Not even the time you left me at the shopping centre, not realising I wasn't in the car." "What?" said Dr. Barnes. "I don't recall the data to which you're referring." Friday sighed. "Of course you don't. Just tell me, why are you here?" "Oh," said Dr. Barnes. Suddenly his eyes welled with tears and his chin wobbled. "It's Dr. Barnes." "Isn't that you?" asked Melanie. "No, the other Dr. Barnes," said Dr. Barnes. "Mum?" asked Friday. "Yes, her," said Dr. Barnes. "What happened to Mum?" asked Friday. "She's disappeared," said Dr. Barnes, as he dissolved into sobs. Friday took her father outside so he could compose himself. She sat him at a picnic table with a strategically placed box of tissues in front of him, just in case he burst into tears again. Melanie and Ian stood by. "What do you mean Mum's disappeared?" asked Friday. "She can't have ceased to exist. She must be somewhere." "All I know is yesterday morning, while I was eating breakfast, I looked up and noticed she wasn't at the table," said Dr. Barnes. "That is a bad sign," said Friday, then turned to explain to her friends. "Mum never misses breakfast. She has an alarm set on her wristwatch to remind her when to eat." "When I reflected on the available evidence, I realised I had no memory of her sitting at the table for dinner the night before either," said Dr. Barnes. "So I investigated further and discovered she was nowhere in the house." "Wow," said Friday, "and you noticed this in under 24 hours? I'm impressed." "So I rang her office at the university, and she wasn't there either," said Dr. Barnes. "I'm worried that she's been kidnapped." "Who would want to kidnap Mum?" asked Friday. "Theoretical physics has all sorts of practical applications," said Dr. Barnes. "She might have been kidnapped by an arms manufacturer." "Or an amusement ride operator," said Ian. "That is more realistic," said Friday. "Carnies have even lower morals than arms manufacturers." "Have you called the police?" asked Melanie. "Why? Do you think they arrested her?" asked Dr. Barnes. "No, to file a missing person report," said Friday. "I hadn't thought of that," said Dr. Barnes. "Is that the type of thing police do? I'd hate to trouble them if it's not their field." "Of course it's their field," said Friday. "I think your father is even vaguer than me," said Melanie. "You should call the police right now," said Friday. "All right," said Dr. Barnes. "Do you know their phone number?" "Don't tell me you don't know the phone number for the emergency services," said Friday. "Why?" asked Dr. Barnes. "Is it my birth date or something?" "It's 000," said Friday. "That's not my birthday," said Dr. Barnes. "I'll call them," said Friday. "Then we can meet the police at your house. They'll want to search for evidence before the trail goes cold." "I don't follow. The ambient temperature is pleasantly balmy," said Dr. Barnes. "I can't see why a trail would go cold." "It's a figure of speech, Dad," said Friday. "I'm not literally talking about a low-temperature footpath." "Really? Fascinating," said Dr. Barnes. It was a 2-hour drive to the Barnes family home. Melanie went along with Friday, supposedly for emotional support, but really so she could get out of classes for the rest of the day. Friday tried questioning Dr. Barnes, her father, as he drove, but she had to give up because he was a terrible driver and it was distracting him too much. He nearly drove into an oncoming ice cream van while trying to remember what his wife had been wearing when he last saw her. When they pulled up at the Barnes family's ordinary suburban home, the police were already there. They had marked off the whole front yard with crime scene tape. "Oh, my goodness!" exclaimed Dr. Barnes. "What's happened here?" "Mother has gone missing," Friday reminded him. "We called the police about it 2 hours ago." "And they've done all this already?" said Dr. Barnes. He was a university academic, so he was not used to anyone taking action with any degree of rapidity. "Come on," said Friday, "let's talk to the officer in charge." They all got out of the car. Melanie and Dr. Barnes hung back while Friday ducked under the tape and started walking towards the front door. "Stop right there!" snapped an angry-looking woman in a beige pantsuit. "If you take one more step, I'll arrest you." Friday froze, one foot hovering over a paver. "This is a crime scene," said the pantsuit woman. "With every step you take, you are contaminating the evidence." "This is also my family home," said Friday, "and the missing person is my mother. If you allow me to put my foot down and continue walking into the building, I will probably be able to assist the officer in charge." "I am the officer in charge," said the pantsuit woman. "My name is Detective Summers, and my past experience with children is that they are anything but helpful." "Well, you could have my father come in and have a look around to see what's missing or misplaced," said Friday. "But he is a theoretical physicist with tenure, so he's about as aware of his physical surrounds as a dead geranium." "That's ridiculous," said Detective Summers. "He's the victim's husband." "Allow me to demonstrate," said Friday, turning to her father, who was still on the other side of the tape. "Dad, what day of the week is it?" "What?" said Dr. Barnes. "Do you know what the day of the week is?" repeated Friday. "I suppose it's one of them," said Dr. Barnes. "I don't know. It'll say on the calendar, I presume." "Can you narrow it down?" asked Friday. "If you concentrate really hard, can you work out whether it is a weekday or a weekend?" "How on earth can I be expected to know that?" asked Dr. Barnes. "You just picked me up from school and classes were in session," said Friday, "so you should be able to deduce that it's a weekday." "Oh, yes, that does follow," agreed Dr. Barnes. "I hadn't really thought about it." "What colour are Mum's eyes?" continued Friday. "Her eyes," said Dr. Barnes. "Well, they're eye-coloured, I suppose." "Think hard, Dad," urged Friday. "You've been married for 28 years. In all that time, have you ever looked at Mum and noticed what colour her eyes were?" "Blue? Or maybe brown," said Dr. Barnes. "One of those two colours, I should think." "Behold my father's power of observation," said Friday. "There must be an adult family member I can talk to," said Detective Summers. "Yes, I do have 4 adult brothers and sisters," said Friday. "Quantum, Quasar, Halley, and Orion Barnes. You could get in touch with one of them." "Oh, no, you can't do that," said Dr. Barnes, shaking his head. "Why not?" asked Friday. "I tried already. I couldn't get hold of any of them this morning," said Dr. Barnes. "None of them answered the phone when I rang. That's why I had to go and get Friday." Friday was a little hurt. "I should have known I wouldn't be the first person you'd contact." "So your 4 older children are missing as well?" asked Detective Summers. "And you didn't think to mention this before?" "Could it be relevant?" asked Dr. Barnes. Detective Summers looked like she wanted to slap Dr. Barnes. She took a deep breath, then turned to Friday. "Perhaps you had better be the one to come inside." Okay, sorry about that. I didn't realise that the first chapter ended on a cliffhanger, and when I asked them to send me the audio of the first chapter to put on my podcast, I didn't realise that it would be torturously ending on a cliffhanger for you. Sorry about that. So I'll read the second chapter right now here in my home office so that you're not left hanging. All right, so let's just do this. Okay, Chapter 2 of Friday Barnes, Number 3, Big Trouble. Inside the house. Friday wasn't allowed into the house until she was decked out in a full crime scene suit, which included white paper overalls, white booties, a face mask, and shower cap. "You do realise that my fingerprints, hair and skin cells will be all over the house already," said Friday. "I did live here for 11 years. "When it comes to evidence, you can never be too careful," said Detective Summers, leading Friday up the front path. When she reached the front door, she stopped and turned to Friday. For the first time, Detective Summers had a look of compassion on her face. "Before we enter, I should warn you, what you see will be upsetting. Whoever took your mother made a real mess. The house has been completely turned over. They must have been searching for something. Your mother's research notes, perhaps. I know it can be distressing to see your family home violated." A lump formed in Friday's throat. She nodded, because she didn't think she could trust herself to speak. It wasn't until now it occurred to her that the kidnapper might have handled her mother roughly. Her mother might not have been the world's best mother, but she wasn't a bad person. It's just that Dr. Barnes lived in the theoretical world. She spent all her time inside her own mind. So to trick her into getting into a stranger's car would have been the easiest thing in the world. All you'd have to say is, "Get in the car, Dr. Barnes. I'm here to take you to a conference." And she'd be halfway to Mauritius before it crossed her mind to wonder where she was going. Friday hoped the kidnappers hadn't hurt Dr. Barnes. Apart from being one of the world's leading scientists, she was also Friday's mum, and she only had one mum, and she'd rather have a distracted, self-absorbed mother than no mother at all. Detective Summers held open the front door, and Friday stepped inside. She walked down the short corridor to the living room and then stopped. 3 white-suited crime scene investigators were taking samples in the room, which was strange enough. It looked like aliens were paying an afternoon visit to her home. But as Friday looked about, she noticed the total dishevelment. There were papers and periodicals strewn everywhere, cupboards hanging open, a broken mug on the kitchen table, breakfast cereal trodden into the carpet, and a chair was overturned. Friday took it all in. "Are you all right?" asked Detective Summers. "Of course I am," said Friday. "This is what the house always looks like." "It is?" asked Detective Summers. "Well, not always," said Friday. "When I lived here, I used to tidy up after Mum and Dad as much as I could. But if I ever went away on a school camp or stayed with Uncle Bernie for a couple of days, the house would always end up looking like this when I came back." "But it looks like it's been ransacked," said Detective Summers. "I know," agreed Friday. "Mum and Dad don't have very good life management skills. I really should have arranged some sort of care worker to look after them when I moved out. What they really need is a nanny, someone to tell them when to eat, when to brush their teeth, and when to go to bed." "Well, your mother is still missing," said Detective Summers. "Plus your brothers and sisters. There must be something going on here. If 5 of the nation's leading physicists have been kidnapped, that's going to be a huge deal." "Are you sure she has been kidnapped?" asked Friday. "Perhaps there's another explanation." "Yes, we're sure," said Detective Summers. "I didn't want to distress your father, but there was a note." "From Mother?" asked Friday. "Yes," said Detective Summers. "Whoever took her allowed her to leave a brief message." "May I see it?" asked Friday. Detective Summers looked doubtful. "You're a child. I don't want to do anything that might traumatize you. Police departments are forever getting sued for things like that." "I won't sue," said Friday. "For a start, I'm not in touch enough with my emotions to be traumatized. The Barneses are big on suppressing all emotions. Just show me the note. I promise I'll be fine. At least for the foreseeable future. If I do have any psychological repercussions, I'm sure they won't become apparent for years." "All right," said Detective Summers, taking a plastic evidence bag out of her notebook. It looked like a sandwich bag, but it didn't contain a sandwich. It contained a crumpled, handwritten note. Friday took the bag carefully by the corner and inspected it closely. "As you can see, the handwriting is barely legible," said Detective Summers. "She was clearly extremely distressed when she wrote it. Perhaps she had to do it hurriedly while her kidnappers weren't looking." Friday peered closer. The letters barely looked like the standard Roman alphabet. It was as if they'd been furtively stabbed into the page, literally tearing up the paper fibres and blotting ink as she wrote. "Can you make out what it says?" asked Detective Summers. "Our cryptographers have been working on it, but they haven't had much luck yet." "Yes," said Friday. "It reads, 'They are taking me away now. I tried to argue. They leave me no choice. I am being forced. Farewell.'" "The poor woman," said Detective Summers. Said Friday. "May I have a look around to see if anything else is missing?" "Of course," said Detective Summers. She followed Friday into the bedroom. The bed was unmade. The drawers were hanging open and clothes were strewn about. "You'll never be able to tell what's missing in all this mess," said Detective Summers. Friday opened the wardrobe. There were very few clothes hanging inside there, just a couple of shirts. The wardrobe was mainly full of old scientific periodicals, which had been untidily stacked on the floor up to waist height. "That's interesting," said Friday. "What?" asked Detective Summers. "Her dress is missing," said Friday. "Which dress?" asked Detective Summers. "Her only dress," said Friday. "Mother has no interest in clothes or fashion. She owns one navy blue dress for weddings, formal dinners, and things like that, and that one dress isn't here." "Well, what does that mean?" asked Detective Summers. "I'm not sure," said Friday. "Let's have a look in the kitchen." Friday led Detective Summers to the kitchen, where she opened a cupboard and took down a canister that said sugar in blue print. What's sugar got to do with this? Asked Detective Summers. My mother doesn't believe in processed sugar, said Friday. She never has it in the house. Friday opened the canister and looked inside. It was empty. This is where she keeps her passport, said Friday. So the kidnapper took her passport, said the detective. This is serious. If she's been missing since yesterday, she could be anywhere in the world by now. Friday was staring into the canister. I've got a suspicion where my mother might be. Where? Asked Detective Summers. What's the date? Asked Friday. 16th of October. Why? Asked Detective Summers. Friday sighed. Because the 10th of December is Alfred Nobel's birthday, and the traditional pre-ceremony lecture tour of Europe takes about 6 weeks. What's that supposed to mean? Asked Detective Summers, looking baffled. Moments later, Friday strode across the front yard to confront her father. He was still waiting on the other side of the tape with Melanie. Dad, can you remember Mum mentioning something about her winning the Nobel Prize? Asked Friday. All right. And we'll leave it there. I know it's a bit of a cliffhanger, but it's a more satisfying cliffhanger. So you can get the audiobook to hear the rest of that story. So anyway, so that's it. Happy holidays. There's 3 holiday specials coming up. I hope you enjoy them. And then some reruns in January and then back into fresh episodes in February. Thank you so much for listening all year. I'm very grateful for your support. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. All right, that's it for now. Until next time, goodbye. Hello, it's me again. If you enjoyed listening to Bedtime Stories with R.A. Spratt, it would be really helpful if you could like, subscribe, follow, and or review the show on whatever podcast platform you're listening to now. Every little one of those digital affirmations helps, and the bigger this podcast gets, the more I can justify procrastinating from my real job to keep bringing these stories to you. Thank you.